welcome. This is I think it's episode 11, but as you guys can see today, finally got the camera going, got the mic set up, so got my face on camera today. I think this will probably be the start of more video episodes, which I know everybody's been asking for, so here we are. Now you can put a name to the face if you don't already know. I feel like this will give me an option, like it'll give me the ability to put more of my personality into it now that you can actually see what I'm saying. But I've got some notes up here on like the things that I want to go over for this episode. Kind of helps to organize my thoughts and everything. So yeah, I guess we can kind of get right into it. But if you already saw the title of the video, Grief and Loss, I will let you know now that this is kind of a heavier topic. So if you kind of need to take your time to go through the video, feel free to pause, come back. Maybe don't come back until you're ready, but I wanted to put that out there because I know it is a heavier topic and it just makes people uncomfortable, understandably so. And with that, I am a counselor in training, emphasis on the training, so I am not licensed. I am not a licensed therapist. This is not any professional advice. If you are dealing with something, please seek help from a mental health professional or just from somebody. There's the 988 crisis hotline if you're kind of experiencing an episode or just in a very high moment of crisis. But yeah, I mean, grief is a very complex emotion. It's natural. I think it's kind of one of the caveats of life and being human, that without life you kind of have death in a sense, and grief is a very complex process in a sense. It's not something that you can really just get over in a day, I think. And I think with that, just being able to kind of have more conversations and being able to be more honest about the way that it affects us all in different ways kind of helps to tackle that challenge a bit more and helps people to just, be able to continue living despite maybe dealing with certain losses in their lives. And I think part of my goal with doing so is helping to reduce the stigma. And I can't really, make laws and do all that. So I think the best way that I can do so is by having conversations in certain spaces like this one. And I think the best way that I work personally is to take that first step myself, because with kind of reducing stigma and having those conversations, oftentimes nobody really wants to be the first person to be different or take that stand and have those conversations and be vulnerable. So I guess that's what I'm here for. That's my main goal in a sense. By me being vulnerable and kind of getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, hopefully I can inspire people to be able to acknowledge certain things in life more so. But yeah, I think for the episode, I wanted to talk about my own experiences. Again, not certified, not a legal professional, whatever it may be. I am not accredited. So this is just me reflecting on my own experiences, hoping that it will encourage more discourse and conversation with everybody. But yeah, my hope is pretty much just inspiring people to be able to confront those emotions more so. If you're not ready to talk about it, you're not ready to talk about it, but I'm hoping that it will allow you to do some more reflection and introspection. So for me, I have had it's good now. I'm in a good place now, but the last, I'd say, year has been kind of rough for me. Honestly, in my own personal life, there have been a lot of things that I've been dealing with. And I think the two main things have been related to grief and loss. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was the loss, death of our family cat, which for those of you that don't have pets, maybe you might think I'm kind of blowing it out of proportion, but I think it was a very real loss. I felt it, I'd say, my family felt it as well. But that was the first thing. The second thing was losing my grandmother about a month after that, last August. And so I think those things happening so close together kind of really just numb me in a sense, like kind of just numb me to kind of the feeling and trying to process things. And I just had a lot of stuff going on anyway. Like I had school and work and stuff. So I feel like I didn't really get the chance to process it all the way. But first thing, okay, so I want to go more into the first topic first. So with the cat, our cat's name was Dominic. We got him about 2021 at like a shelter. So we had him about like 4 years, around 4 years. And it was kind of funny because the day we got him, we went to the shelter and we all me and my family members just got like put in it was just a room in the shelter where you have all the cats and you're pretty much just supposed to pick a cat, whatever, right? And so for those of you that don't know, I was born in Ethiopia, but I came here when I was like 4. And I have really no recollection, no memories of like the first 3 years of my life over there. The only memory I have, like my earliest core memory ever, is being bit by a dog. I had my uncle back home, he had a dog, bit me. After that, did not like dogs at all. And I think it kind of just transitioned to like anything with fur, really just animals in general. And that was a fear that I really had for the longest time. Like I see somebody coming down the street with a dog, I'll cross the street, I'll go the other way. It was just something that had been like classically conditioned in me from like a very young age, was not ready to get past it. But we get into the shelter and I was like, I still had that fear, I was still kind of scared of like cats and all that. And I didn't want to say that. Like my pride wouldn't let me tell my family like, hey, you guys can go pick the cat without me. I don't want to be in there. So I kind of just jumped in there. And it was honestly so nerve-wracking. Like I was honestly so scared, but I tried to just like play it off, and with cats, like they're very silent, so like I would feel something brush up against my leg and look down and I get scared. But got to the shelter and we had like picked a initial cat, whatever, we were gonna take it. I think it was like an orange cat. My sister had picked it, and then we were going to go, so like they had us take a picture with it as a family. And then I think right before the picture, the cat just like spazzed out. Like it just started going off, like clawing, whatever. And so we were like, we're not taking that one home. So we had to go back, find a different cat. And so we picked Dominic because I think he went up to my sister, just like fell asleep in her lap. So they're like, oh, we need this one. And so that was how we got him, 2021, I think around like July, I like to say. So that was when we got him. And with Habesha parents, like Habesha family, like back home, like everybody like grows up with like cats and dogs and stuff, but they have them for very specific reasons. Like you only have a cat to catch the mice in the house. So shout out to my sisters for, like really convincing my parents about just like trying to get a pet. I think they wanted a dog at first, but I think we just had to settle for the cat, which I'm not mad at. I think I'm definitely a cat person. But I think kind of getting the cat was already kind of like a step out of like, a typical Habesha thing. So getting the cat, after we kind of, where he got used to us, he was living with us, kind of just felt like a member of the family in a sense. And there's the joke where it's like your parents are the ones that like are so anti getting the pet, but then after you get the pet, they're the ones that love it the most. Like my dad, he would joke around. He was like, every time I come home, nobody says hi to me except Dominic. Like every time he comes home, Dominic will run from wherever he was in the house to the door to say hi, whatever. Like they take naps together all the time. Honestly, it was like another kid. I feel like I was replaced a little bit because I was around the time when I was moving out the house, but that's not important. So I think with that, kind of just being able to have that love for that pet and, kind of change the whole dynamic, I think it really did help can just, as like a stress reliever, like there was just another, not person, but there was somebody else in the house to kind of just take some attention, take some stress off. And the thing is, after we got him, whenever we would take like vacations and stuff, we would have to put him either with like a family friend, or pet hotels. And those are pretty much, they might as well just be as expensive as regular hotels. I'm not gonna lie to you, they're very expensive, I think. But that's where we would put him whenever we took like a family trip. And so last year was when we went to Ethiopia for about like 3 weeks in July. And cats, very much like humans, just have anxiety. So he kind of had anxiety just being out the house, having to adjust to a new environment because he was not a very social cat, like got scared really easily. It took him a while to just open up to us and be comfortable with that. But while we were back in Ethiopia for the time, he had something going on, so he went to the vet, whatever, anxiety and all that. And so we were really worried about it, but we couldn't kind of leave the country and come right back, like get a new flight. So we had somebody else taking care of him in the meanwhile until we got back. And so after we came back, it was probably like a week or so, and I think I was doing something, but there was like it was literally, I think, a week after, on a Saturday, he like woke up, was like meowing and everything, more so than usual, and it was kind of like very painful ones. And he was kind of just like his lower legs and stuff, like his limbs just weren't really working. So that's already kind of like, we're thinking about the vet trip from the week before, so this is already kind of like raising some red flags. And so we went to the vet, this and that, and it was something like a heart problem. But ultimately, the vet came to the decision, and they were like, it's not looking good. It was pretty much to the point where we had to put him down. And I think that was just the best thing to do for him in his condition. So we went over there. We said like our goodbyes and stuff, And I think that was something that really hit me. Even now, like when I think about it, like when I try to like conceptualize it, I still kind of get those same emotions come up now. But yeah, we all went, said goodbye to him, put him down. I definitely shed some tears. I will say that. It was definitely a very, very emotional day. And I think after that, the house was very quiet. I just kind of, there's like a void in the house in a sense. So being able to, deal with that grief, because I guess we lost a member of the family. And I guess after that, it just felt darker. Like we came back, we went to the vet with him, came back, empty carrier. And you walk around the house, like there's like his litter box, there's like his food, there's everything, but he's not there. And that was like, it was really a weird feeling, because I was definitely in the boat before where I was like, like it's a pet, like it's not a person. Like I wouldn't feel the same grief in a sense from losing them. But I did. I'll tell you personally, I did. Yeah, I think we all did, honestly. But I think kind of the main thing that it really had me like rethink was that there's always like the question of like, why live life if you're going to die, or like why really go out and do something if you know it's going to end. And I think in that sense it was with like a pet, because I was like, after that I was really hurting. We were all hurting in our own ways, but for me it kind of had me rethinking things, because I was like, this low-key hurts so much, like this pain, this grief, it hurts so much. And it made me like rethink like those 4 years of joy, and comfort that he had brought in our lives. Was it really worth this pain now? I still think it was. I think I would get another pet in the future, but maybe not yet. I can't lie. But it literally, the other day, I've been playing FIFA again. Like I've been in a World Cup mood, and I really wanted to get back on the game. So I was playing Ultimate Team, And I was having a great time. I was doing good. Had my Spotify playing off my Xbox. It was amazing. And then what happened was I had a song come up, and this song is very closely associated to that time and everything that I was feeling then. So I very much associate this song with that whole time. Like every time I think of it, I just start thinking of him and I get like super emotional. So the song is Sparks by Coldplay. And so I'm having a great time. And then I start to hear the little chords as the song starts. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, not right now. Like, I can't do this right now. It was like night. I was all alone in my room, this and that. And I like heard it. And I kind of just had to pause the game altogether. I was like, I don't even want to play anymore. It was that serious. Like, the emotions just kind of came all over me. And I was kind of just like, now I'm sad. Now I can't really enjoy it in a sense. And it was kind of that grief that came back. And I think the thing with grief is that there's really it's uncontrollable at times. Like it'll just take over you, and now it can just dictate your entire mood because it is a very strong emotion. Because I feel that the grief that you feel, like the proportion, like the intensity with which you feel it, really ties deeply to the love that you had for that person or thing. And I'm kind of reminded of that when I, hear that song or hear other reminders, see different things. I went to my Snapchat memories like over the last 4 or 5 years. First time I opened Snapchat in I don't know how long, but I opened it, made an album, and I kind of just had to sit there like scrolling through everything. And I think the grief that I felt with Dominic was kind of like it was like innocence, because cats not there's their brains not are not all the way there. Very simple creatures, very cute, but I think to me he just felt like a baby, like a child in a sense, and it was so innocent because I was like he didn't deserve that. And I think after that my family we got a cat, but I had to move back to Baltimore because I had to come back for school. So we got a new cat after we did not reenact the whole shelter scene. At least I didn't, so didn't have to do that. But we got a new cat now. Her name is Cassie, I think Kasich, and she's nice. She's kind of the opposite of Dominic in practically every way, like the colors. But she's very social, very friendly, this and that. And it is nice to have another cat, but it's not as if we could really replace him. I feel like with grief, there's always the want to replace what was lost, but you can't really do that. Everything is unique in a sense. And I think with grief, it's not being like able to replace it or try to look for it in other things, but being able to recognize the beauty in it being done and kind of allowing yourself to live with the memories of that. And I mean, with Kasi, I feel like I don't have the same connection in a sense, but that's just because I haven't been at home. They got her. I think they got her the day after I left, so I didn't see her for like 4 months until I was back home for winter break. And she was nice. She was nice. She's funny. I will say that she's funny, but I think it's a process for sure. I still think of Dominic like I said, like anytime I hear a song or whatever it may be, kind of have those memories pop up. But it's a process. I can tell you that. And there's books on like processing like pet grief, which is different than human grief. Similar concept, but I think it's still grief nonetheless. And I don't think you should kind of feel ashamed for it because a lot of times people have pets because they might not have people. So a pet can kind of be that placeholder for a person and provide the comfort that somebody else might not be able to. But that's pretty much all I have on that quick story, first half of it. I think the second half is regarding more so the loss of my grandmother. And I feel like this one will definitely kind of impact me a bit more. So I'm going to try to take it slower. But if you see it kind of like, if you see the film like kind of cutting in and out, just know I might have to stop and restart just in case my emotions get the better of me. So, like I said earlier, I was born in Ethiopia, but had not been back there for some time after I came here. Last time I went was about 2007 during the Bush administration. So it had been about 18 years since I went back last summer, 2025. And in terms of my grandma, this is my maternal grandmother on my mom's side. So she had come to live with us, I think, early 2010s for like a couple years before she went back. So last time she saw me and my sisters, we were, I think I was maybe like 10, 11, and my sisters were way younger. So it was definitely a lot of time that had passed between us seeing each other. And I think about this tweet from time to time. I think it said, the purest form of love is kind of the love you get from your grandma on your mother's side. And I feel like that's pretty true. And I don't mean that to kind of like throw shade on like all of my other grandparents. I have a lot of love for them, and they definitely did a lot for me growing up, especially my grandfather on my dad's side too. Both my grandfathers lived back home, and they had spent a lot of time with me when I was young, but was not conscious yet. So I have like vague memories, but not as much in a sense. I think her living with us for those years when she was here, when I was older and I was conscious, I think those kind of helped to, I guess, develop more memories or have like, an image of her in my mind, and really allowed myself to, conceptualize and feel that love more so. But yeah, we went back last summer, got off the airport. And when you land over there after you get out baggage claim and you walk out the airport, there's crowds and crowds of people who are there to, pick up their family members, like you see in the movies. They had like flowers, so I saw her, saw my uncle, saw his kids. They were all waiting for us outside, and she had like a little bouquet of flowers that she just gave straight to me. Like I was the first person she hugged, and it was really nice. I think it was overdue like 13, 14 years. So it was a long time coming. But yeah, we stayed there about 3 weeks, 3 weeks, like end of June, July. So it was nice, just being able to see the family that I hadn't seen in so long. Like my uncle, I hadn't seen him since I was like 6. And the last time I saw him, I don't think he was married, but now he has 4 kids, nice wife, nice house. Like he's a lot of life has happened for us both since then. I got to meet my cousins, got to meet some new ones who I really do have a lot of love for. But I think being back home was like really beautiful because it reinforced to me that like there are really a lot of people in this world that do love you. Oftentimes you just haven't met them all. And I think being back home really shows you that if you are a family, or if there's really some deeper connection, like people will go above and beyond to really do things for you out of love in a sense, and you don't expect anything in return. And that love was something that I was reminded of practically every day that I was there. And after coming back, I wanted to go back to visit. I probably will go back to visit, but it was kind of a rough goodbye for somebody that I had really only known for about 3 weeks, that I hadn't met in my entire life. So I really do have a lot of love for my family back home. Do want to go back and visit one day. But back to my point earlier about the tweet with like love and everything. I feel like with her presence, it kind of just felt like there was, like love and like warmth kind of just like radiating. I don't know how to describe it, but it felt kind of metaphysical. Like it was just an energy that I could kind of, kind of just like feel in a sense. And it just felt so pure and like warm and welcoming that I kind of wanted to just like really surround myself in it because it just felt so comforting. And one of the things that I had done before I left was I have a notebook that I journal with from time to time. And I had taken it with me because I wanted to, try to journal and stuff. But I wanted to have, like a souvenir to kind of remember her by, in a sense. So another thing is that she had a nickname for me. My name is Yoni, but she did not call me that. She called me Alamayo, which in Amaranya, or if you translate it to English, Alam means like earth or like world. So she would so my nickname was like my world or like my earth in a sense, which was, like I said, going back to like the warmth and the energy that I could kind of feel. It was something that I just kind of really felt more so, and you could even see that in the way that she would refer to me. And like that's like everybody else kind of picked up that nickname too, like my uncles, everybody else. They didn't really call me Yoni, they just called me by her nickname. And I think, the point I was making, I had my notebook, and so I've been like learning, like I've gotten better over the years at learning to read and write in Amaranya. So I was able to write it out, and I wanted her to write Alamayo out in my notebook, like in her handwriting. So I gave her a pen, whatever, wrote it out, and had her, trace it out, like tried to write it in her own sense. So I took that in my notebook, took it home with me when we left after 3 weeks, said goodbye and everything. And that was that. I had a great time. I was able to really enjoy those 3 weeks with her after like 12, 14 years. And I honestly just came back from that trip really having a newfound love and appreciation for my family, whether that's like my direct family or just extended family. Just like recognizing that there are so many people in this world that really do have love for me. And after I got back, like I said earlier, we got back to the U.S. and Dom had passed away a week later. A week after that, I was back home in Baltimore. So I came back, was like working probably like 2-3 weeks before school started, like at the beginning of August. And so it was about a week before the semester had started. So this is like a month removed from our trip back, 3 weeks from Dominic passing. But I think I either got a phone call or a text, I think from my sister, somebody back home, and they were telling me that she had passed away. And I'm not really gonna go too deep into the details and specifics of what happened, but it kind of hit me like a gut punch in a sense. I think it hit so much harder because I had just spent time with her. She was great. She was in great spirits, healthy, this and that. And I was looking forward to being able to come back next year and spend more time with her again. So being able to just really get to know her more than I had been able to in the past 14 years. And it just felt so abrupt, like it was kind of just snatched from me in a sense. And it felt like I had just been starting to, really get to know her, really be able to, bask in the warmth that she offered. And with that, I remember what I did because it was like early in the day, like middle of the day when I had got that call. And like I said, it just felt delayed, like I registered what was said to me, but it didn't really like process all the way, I guess. I think I had kind of a delayed shock, but I just kind of felt numb to it. Like I remember I like left, I walked outside to like a bench in the park nearby, and like I sat there and I tried to like force myself to cry. Like I forced myself to feel those emotions, but couldn't really do it. Like I was playing like Sparks. I was playing like whatever sad music I had, and I was trying to reflect on like the memories that I had just made like the month before. And I really tried to force the emotion out of it, but was not as successful. I think I kind of just ended up sitting in silence for some time, like really trying to ponder over things and kind of just like think about them in a sense. And that was when I was like thinking more so about like the stages of grief, because it's funny, like being a counselor, I feel like people will like laugh because they'll be like, "Oh, you're depressed as a therapist. Why don't you just read your notes?" You know, it's not that simple. But that was something I was thinking of. I was thinking about like the stages of grief. If you don't know stages of grief, there's 5 stages. There's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Denial, you kind of, I think that's where I was initially, where I just was kind of in disbelief, couldn't really accept that that was a new reality in a sense. Anger, I don't know if I ever really got to that stage of anger where I was just like angry at the world, angry at somebody for kind of taking her away. I don't know if I got to that stage. Third stage is bargaining, where you're kind of trying to, like try to bargain or like try to find some kind of loophole or try to get some type of win out of it in a sense. And that kind of goes back to the denial aspect of not really being able to accept the reality, trying to find something to take away from the situation. And after that, there's depression, which I think is something that I was in that stage for a bit, if I'm being honest. But I think I was functioning. I was still highly functioning. Like I still kind of had the thoughts and the emotion and the sadness behind it, but I had school the next week. I had to lock in for the semester. I had my job. I had work and everything. So I had to force myself to still function because I had responsibilities. I had duties in my life. All the while, I'm still reeling and trying to process everything that's been happening to me. And then the final stage is acceptance, which I think I feel like I've been at that stage. And like I said earlier, with grief, it's kind of just being able to accept it, as difficult as that may be, kind of accepting the loss. But I don't think acceptance necessarily means that you kind of just like leave it in the past. I think true acceptance with grief and loss is, one, just accepting that what has happened has happened. But I think the bigger thing that people don't really focus on as much is, although you accept it, that doesn't mean you're happy about it. I feel like acceptance kind of makes people feel that, oh, like it is what it is, like I'm done this and that. But you can still accept it and still be kind of upset. Understand that I didn't want to lose that person, but I did. And that's where you transition to the biggest part of acceptance, of making peace with that. And I think I've made peace with that. And one of the things that I did after, like I said, I had her handwriting written in my notebook. I had went to a tattoo shop, and then I had gotten that tattooed like right here over my heart. I'm not going to show it on camera, but it's there. And acceptance kind of means being able to honor the memory in a sense, or still be able to live with those memories, because even though it was something beautiful that you had and that thing might be gone now, the memories still live on in a sense, and being able to still move forward and live a life without that person. Because I think there's like I think there's a disorder. It's called like prolonged grief disorder, which is where if you maybe don't transition through all of the stages of grief, or you're still feeling a very deep loss that you had at one point in life, it can extend into longer and longer periods of time. And I think acceptance with that is just being able to come to terms with it and recognize that there was beauty in it. And although that might be done now, there was something beautiful there. And it is those memories that you hold on to as you go forward. And I feel like the main thing is that it has you more, like you live more presently, like you're more in the moment, because unfortunately I think that many people don't realize the beauty of something until you've lost it. And I think that was something that I had to realize with that, because like I said, I realized how much love there was for me when I was back home. But I think after I had lost her, I was kind of reminded of that because now I didn't have that same like warmth and comfort that she provided. But when I changed my perspective, I kind of realized that I still have love and warmth. Maybe not from her, but I still have love and warmth from so many other people in my life. Like there are other people that I have love for, that love me, that that I really am blessed to have in my life. And being able to shift that perspective to kind of going from a mindset of what you've lost to a mindset of abundance, and recognizing that you haven't lost everything. You lost something that's great, something that's important, but you still have so much more left in life to live for. But with the stages of grief, I think the biggest thing is that I feel like if people assume that you have gotten to the fifth stage of acceptance, like one day that the job is done, no, it's not done. You lost somebody, and that's a loss that you will feel. As time goes on, time kind of heals, and maybe it doesn't impact you as much. It doesn't weigh on your mind as heavily from day to day, but it's still a loss, and it's okay to feel that loss. Grief is not linear. Like growth is not linear. You could be having a great day one day in the acceptance stage, and you could hear something. You could hear a song, like I said, hear a song, or a memory, or see a picture or a video that takes you back a couple stages. And that's perfectly okay. We're human. Our emotions are meant to be felt. I think the biggest thing is that emotions, we don't really have control over our emotions, in my opinion, because when you lose something, how else should you feel but sad? If that was something that you truly loved, what other emotions can you expect out of it? The biggest thing is starting to recognize the power you have over your thoughts and your behaviors, because the emotions will come. You'll have the moment of sadness, the moment of depression, whatever it may be. But it is after you get that emotion, what do you do with it? Do you kind of let it sit and fester and just kind of take the day off if you need to? Or do you try to, shift your thoughts? You feel sad, but you start to think about the happy times, the great times, the love that you felt from them. And I think being able to shift your mindset, start to have more control over those thoughts, is one of the best ways to, start to move past that grief. But I wanted to talk about something else too. This falls under the grief umbrella, but in like Habesha culture, we have this thing called like a Lekso in Amharic. And pretty much what that means is, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, whatever it may be, but I think it is maybe like a period of 40 days after somebody loses a loved one, family member, whatever it may be. You will have the community, you will have people kind of go to their house and kind of just every day sit in, provide comfort. There's usually a lot of like crying, wailing that may happen. But I think that kind of goes into the purging of it, or catharsis. And with catharsis and kind of purging, I know some people aren't really fans of it because they feel it's kind of really repetitive. But I think that in like our specific culture, I think it does a lot more than meets the eye in a sense. Because I think with that catharsis and that purging and kind of being able to just let everything out, I think that it's not necessarily just purging from that loss, from losing that specific person. I would like to argue that I think with that purging and that crying, that wailing, whatever it may be, I think it extends a lot more. And this is because I feel like in our culture there is a facet of stoicism. And stoicism is kind of the, just putting on a tough face, putting on a brave face and acting as if you don't really you're not impacted, or you just because you don't want to seem weak. I can say specifically like as a man, like there's the stoicism that goes to like you don't cry, you don't show emotion, whatever. But in general, how should I culture, I feel like there is stoicism, and I feel that the purging allows you to really just sit there and feel those emotions, because I don't think that's something that we really talk about as much. And I could go on a tangent about how that relates to the stigma around mental health and being able to express those emotions, but maybe another video. But I think the purging is so powerful because, one, you get to mourn this person for extended period of time. There are people around that comfort you. There are people that will take care of finances, other issues. People will come to your house, bring you food, take care of you for the next month or so, so you do not have to worry. You can just sit there and wallow. You can just sit there and, really accept your grief. And the thing is with the purging, just because you've lost this person doesn't mean that the purging is specific to this person. You could be purging for the last 5 people that you lost in your life. It could be very overdue. And I think that's really the beauty of it, because in the culture, it's a collectivist culture. So with collectivist cultures, there's like individualistic cultures and like collectivist cultures. Individualistic, you think like US, like Western society, where there's more emphasis on like you as an individual and being able to put yourself up. But collectivist cultures place the importance of the community above each other. Everybody works together to make sure that everybody's okay. And I think that is the beauty about the collectivism in my culture, because there's love in a sense, and sometimes you might not feel it, but everybody really looks out for another, because sometimes it might be your turn. You might be the one that has to kind of handle that grief and deal with that grief. So when your time comes, you know that they will be there for you, just as when their time comes, you will be there for them. I think it's honestly really beautiful how you can have true like love and emotions pop up and really manifest themselves when people are at their lowest, because grief is complex and it's not something that I feel anybody should have to deal with on their own. The beauty of it is that grief is not, it's not just on you. Even though that's your person that you lost, they feel it just the same, because they have love for you. So your pain is their pain. It reminds me of a quote. I think it said, "Share joy, like when you share joy with somebody else, it's double the joy. But when you share grief with somebody else, it's half the grief." And I think that's really what is, represented in that practice specifically with the Lekso, but in the culture in general, I feel like there is a lot of community in a sense. Sometimes there's negative aspects of the community, but I want to focus on this positive aspect specifically. And going back to the Stoicism, it's really interesting to me because I'm taking like a behavioral medicine class right now. And in it, we talked about like help-seeking behaviors in different cultures. And I think the Stoicism really rings true. Like, it's actually funny. I have a real-life example. One of my friends, I'm not going to say his name, he got sick recently. I was on the phone with him, and he was like, yeah, I've been in bed. He was like, I have like 103-degree fever. And I'm like, damn, like, you okay? He said, yeah, I'll be fine. He's like, I'm not gonna go to the doctor. I'll just thug it out. I'll take some Tylenol, sleep it off. And I was like, no. I'm like, you're not supposed to do that. I was like, we're not back home. Like, we can go to the hospital, like, there's no need to downplay it. And that goes back to the Stoicism and the feeling that having those human emotions like grief or loss kind of might have you be perceived as weak, but we are human. I think with us like being strong, we are strong because of we're strong because we have to be, because of our circumstances. But what I found is that those kind of unresolved conflicts, the strength that you had shown, but if you didn't take the time to tackle those emotions, oftentimes they just manifest later down the line or in different ways. That's the thing with like grief. If you don't actually like process it and come to terms with it, it kind of just manifests itself in other ways in your life. Whether that might be in your relationships with others, or if you might have the fear of reconnecting because you don't want to risk losing something else that you value. But I think it is important to, you know, be able to not just understand those emotions, but just be able to sit in them, sit comfortably or uncomfortably, but being able to just sit down and acknowledge that, yeah, I'm not in the best shape right now mentally, but that doesn't mean I won't be one day. And it is by accepting that you can eventually get to the stage of acceptance, by first just acknowledging where you are right now, as much as you don't want to, like as much as you dislike it. It is often a reality. Like you kind of have to sit in there with the discomfort of it, because it is not until you get through that discomfort that you can get to the acceptance stage of it. If you don't tackle it on now, it'll manifest itself somewhere down the line in other ways. But that's pretty much everything I had for this video. Hopefully it was a good listen. If you can finally see my face, and maybe it was more enjoyable than just hearing my voice over the logo the whole time. But yeah, last couple messages, if you're kind of dealing with something, talk to somebody, preferably a professional. But if you're not ready to do so yet, that's fine. Just be able to share that with somebody, because life is not always sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes there's rain. And it's knowing that when it does rain, if you don't have an umbrella, it's okay to ask somebody else for one. And just, sometimes you just gotta sit in the rain until it goes by. But don't be afraid to, share those emotions, have a conversation with somebody, whatever that may be. But thank you guys for watching. This was video episode 1. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you next episode.